Yeah, I see it in my group. I see it in various other groups where
Yeah.
you're so pulled in by the numbers. As long as numbers motivate you and get you up and going and drive you, it's a good thing.
Mm.
But the downside to it is that sometimes it just pulls
Yeah.
you down and takes you away from your game and can completely put you off. So
Right.
having that clarity and understanding the fine line between motivation and
Yeah.
going the other way around
Yeah.
would help. One woman and one man, and it was tagged as spokeswomen. I just took the same thing and applied it here, and I just called it the spokeswomen group.
Yeah.
And I created this WhatsApp group with about 10, 11 friends.
Right.
And I shared the WhatsApp link with saying that if there are women keen to ride, you can ask them to join this group.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, I had 55 women join the group.
Awesome.
Within 48 hours, it was 78 plus. I mean, I was mind blown. I didn't know what to do because obviously I had not anticipated this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now I don't know what to do because there is no way we can manage. The encouragement that you get is exactly the same you would get if you won a race or you do a brevet, etc.
Yeah.
Because each one of it is an accomplishment in itself.
Right.
And the women do make time to kind of help. So even if you're a brevet rider, you will still support someone who's doing a 20-kilometer ride. There is no sense of, okay, this is too less, this is too much. Yeah. And that, I think, is what has helped it grow. Yeah. And addressing a lot of problems or questions that you might be reluctant to ask in the next group, like, I'm having my periods, what do I do? I have this kind of pain, this hurts, that hurts, this kind of things which you might not discuss in an open forum. Here can be easily asked.
I am Baiki Venki and this is the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, time management, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel, either on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app. Today's guest is a mom for 2 teenage daughters, and she has also done crazy things like riding 20 centuries in a month, among other things. But what makes me very impressed by her is that she has started something of a club for women in Bangalore, an exclusive women's cycling club called SpokesWomen. So you can say that she is a chief spokeswoman for SpokesWomen. Hi Vidya, so welcome to the Working Athlete Podcast.
Thank you so much, Venki, for having me over. It's a pleasure to be here.
When did you start cycling?
Well, of course, I mean, I'm not counting the cycling that I did during my childhood days. I think it was in 2015 that I got the first cycle. It was actually started with trying to do some fitness related thing in 2014. And, there was an apartment complex and I joined the running group there. And a few of my friends from that group started attempting triathlons. So I picked up the cycle in 2015. But those were more, just riding within the apartment complex, trying to do even 10, 20 was like a big distance in those days.
Right.
And in 2016, I attempted the Thonnur Triathlon and I realized that of all the 3 legs, I enjoyed cycling the most. So actually started riding a lot in 2016.
Okay. So you started this, say, endurance journey or with running?
With running, yes.
Okay. When was this?
That was in 2014. I was turning 40 and I was like, okay, I have to do something. Yeah. And a friend of mine said, hey, this is Bhagalita Bhag group. Let's just join. And I'm like, I can't run. But okay, we'll try something new anyway, turning 40. So in June of 2014, I started running. End of that year, I ran 2 half marathons and I used to really struggle. I'm like, I don't think this is there. I mean, but still kept trying. And then, as I said, in 2015, I picked up my first hybrid bike and started doing a little bit of cycling. And there was a gentleman by the name, I mean, you know him, Anil Katsur. I started going to him
Yeah,
for
Anil.
strength training for the triathlons.
Okay.
And he would keep telling me, that Vidya, I think you should cycle more. You're more natural in cycling. And I'm like, no, 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 I have to run. But as I said, once I attempted the Thonnur try, I realized, I should just try more of cycling. So by end of 2016 is when I started doing a lot more of riding and
Right.
tapered down the runs kind of thing.
Okay. So Anil has a big say in your cycling.
He has been a big influence in my life because he and Archana Shishagiri, actually, I should say both of them together, because they used to do a lot of rides, and slowly I started going with them. We started, I joined them in doing hill climbs. We would drive to Elegary, to Airka, to Kulli Hills, and to Ooty, etc. And it's just, there are two people I find that who just absolutely love cycling. When you're with them, it's like just sheer joy.
Right.
And that was like a big influence in my life, how much they enjoyed. And even though in the beginning of doing climbs, I remember we going to Baswan Betta and I was like, I am going to die. Like my cycle was going left, it was going right. And I told them, both of you just go. Like they reach a hill and they just race to the top. Then they come down for me and then they ride up back with me. That is how it started. And it was just pure suffering in the beginning. But then I slowly kind of got into the groove and started enjoying. So yeah, I give a huge credit to Anil for having brought that influence in my life.
Awesome. So yeah, Anil is such a pocket rocket. The bundle of energy in a very very tiny package.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think if we, maybe his beard weighs heavier than him.
Right now, yes, that is. But in those days when we started, he was completely clean shaven. He used to look like a very small boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were a big group of us who used to go to him for strength training, and it was we still have a very good relationship. Anytime there are rides, they call. There's no way you'll say no. It's just fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Archana is also
Archana is an
very
amazing rider. I mean, she's such a naturally gifted rider. And I remember, we were sitting and having a cup of coffee at Maya's post training, and I was shifting out of South Bangalore, and Archana was getting married, and we're like, we will not have this time together. Let's just do a long ride. And randomly, Bangalore se Kanyakumari chalte hain. It was like that. And I was like, okay, let's go. And so May I was shifting, and we went in the month of April. It was the craziest idea to do this, and the longest ride I had done before that was a 200. So there was no way this entire thought even made sense, but it was just that we knew that we would not get those rides back with the new changes happening. So we just went, and it was just the most craziest thing I have done in my life, but also the most amazing. So, and they just don't tire. Like, we will never stop because either one of them is tired. It's always me, and I'm like, can we just take a break here? Can we rest here? But yeah, that was quite a remarkable journey.
How many days did you guys?
We had planned for 3.5 days, but the first day we started riding, I have a screenshot, it was like 46 degrees. Whoa. And I'm like, and then you are the tarmac heat of the Chennai highway, right?
Right.
No trees. There were no trees in the entire highway. Yeah. And at one point, Archana and I actually sat down under a water tanker because we just wanted some shade. And we just could not ride that tarmac heat and this thing. It just felt like an oven. Yeah. So we kind of made a change in plan. Instead of riding through the day, we rode through the night. And between 11 and 3 or something, we would stop somewhere and take some rest. So it became 4.5 days.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we typically see, dogs and animals resting under the vehicles. So, and we often use the expression "suffering like a dog."
Yes,
that was
literally like that. It was crazy, and then people will randomly ask, "Are you guys participating in a race?" I mean, there must be some reason you're doing this. No, purely by choice. We are suffering. But it was a good journey. Every 100 kilometers we would stop. Vidya's longest ride. We have to do a group hug, Somehow we reached. And of course, that last leg of that Kanyakumari windmills it was in the middle of the night, okay? There were no lights. And because I'm from Kerala, I've gone to Kanyakumari so many times. I've crossed that stretch so many times. Okay, but in the middle of the night on a two-wheeler, on a cycle, it's so scary because you hear that whoosh, whoosh, the thing going, and you just feel it so close to you. And by that time, our battery lights have drained out. Okay, Anil anyway doesn't use lights.
Yeah.
And Archana, between her and me, we had like one light working. And then we both looking at, let's look back as Anil flown off in the wind. It's like so windy. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was quite an incredible ride. I
What-
never want to do that again, though.
At least not in summer.
Not in summer.
But how? What was the distance? Bangalore
It's
to-
686. It's what is recorded in
686.
Strava. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Ah, not bad for a first long
Long
I
ride.
mean,
Yeah.
I have never done anything like that. The longest I have done, I think in a day was like what 250. That
Okay.
was back in the day. That
Yeah.
was the first and last brevet I did.
Aja. Okay. Yeah.
That was crazy. So, but after you did that, you did something from some more long distance rides, right?
So post that, I mean, I told Anil I would like to start Brevets, and I
Mm.
started doing the 200s. The first 200 Brevet was Nandi. Again, as I remember Loki standing there, why would you choose Nandi as your first Brevet? I'm like, because that was the first thing coming up. And one of my co-riders, again, who used to train with Anil, he just said that she wants to attempt the Brevet. And that time I had no clue. Like, I didn't know how to read maps. I didn't know how to load routes, nothing. Just show up and follow Sunil was my instruction. So we started with the 200. And then that year I said, no, I'm not ready to do longer distances. So I did my regular rides. The next season is when I attempted the SR series.
Okay.
Again, I started with the 200, then I did the 300.
This was in
400.
2018.
2018-19 season,
Okay.
yes.
Mm.
Then I did the 600, which was kind of a learning for me, and I did the Madurai Kanyakumari. I never thought I'd be riding to Kanyakumari again, but I drove to Madurai to do a Madurai Kanyakumari 600 ride, and it was a disaster. It's like,
Why, what happened?
I was riding with two guys who were very seasoned riders at that point of time. But we kind of had a small accident, not accident, kind of a bus came very fast and two of us hit each other, and my co-rider's cycle came and hit my disc.
Wow.
And my disc was bent, and this is at 185 kilometers in a 600 kilometer brevet.
Oh no.
We lost 3 hours in trying to fix that
Disc.
And
Straighten it.
we tried. We pulled over to a shop, they hammered it, got it straight. I had to pedal even downhill. It was so bad. It was kept getting stuck. Then at 250 kilometer, we had a pit stop like in the middle of the night, and the organizers were there, and I'm like, I cannot ride this bike. So a group of them got together. They took the disc from the front wheel and put it in the rear, and I rode the remaining distance without front brakes.
Oh, okay.
And you can imagine, after losing like 3-5 hours and doing all this, now we are like really constrained on time. So we are riding at whatever speed we can manage without me having front brakes.
Okay.
We just reached in the nick of time. Like, I think 40 hours is exactly I reached there.
Wow.
And I'm like, I am never doing this again unless I have like good amount of buffer and I manage my time. I'm not doing any distance. So I completely stopped doing anything more than a 200 after that.
Okay.
The next 600 I attempted, I finished in like 31 hours and change. So I'm like, no, I said, okay.
No, you have done it again.
I did it. No, I said I'd not do this again with like marmar ke, like in the nick of time. It's so much of stress and it's not fun, right?
Right, yeah.
The whole idea is you're doing it and there's a sense of fun and purpose. If you're riding with so much of stress, there's no joy in it.
Yeah.
So, and then post K2K, because I didn't quite a bit. I was in a fit, so I felt ready to do the 600.
Yeah.
So that's when I did, and I rode with a couple of co-riders I ride well with. So it was fun.
Okay. Post K2K, you said. So what was
that was another good journey.
K2K is
it's not I mean, I know K2K typically is associated with Kashmir to
Kashmir to
Kanyakumari.
Kanyakumari.
So there was a group of riders who had already done Kashmir to Kanyakumari,
Okay.
and they were planning to do East Coast to West Coast.
East
So this
Coast to West
was
Coast.
Kutch, Gujarat
Uh-huh.
to Kamrup, Assam,
Okay.
and we're about 11 riders,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm.
they had reached out to Grinchina Karthik, who was one of the riders in Bangalore.
Mm.
And then she kind of gave my name, they spoke to us. So we were 11 riders,
Mm-hmm.
2 women and 9 men
So
across India.
2 men are you
2 women and 9 men.
Uh-huh.
So Grini and I were the 2 women riders,
Okay.
and the remaining 9 riders were mostly almost all of them were from the original K2K trip.
Okay.
They were from
Okay.
different parts of India.
Mm-hmm.
So we all met in Chennai because Lions Club Chennai was sponsoring the entire event,
Right.
entire ride.
Mhm.
Then we all flew to Gujarat. We started it in Kutch, and we rode across the breadth of India from Kutch to Assam.
Okay. What was the distance?
It was 3,200
Okay.
done over 20 days with 1 day rest. So 21 days.
Mm.
We had a 1 day break at Lucknow on the
Okay.
14th day, which was a
Mhm.
rest day. So that was incredible. I mean, that was like a. And I come from an armed forces background, so I've traveled all over India.
Okay.
But traveling on a bike and just seeing the change in landscape, you see the people, you see the dressing, you see the food, and you see the hospitality. These are such fine things that you will not notice when you're driving in a car, because
Yeah.
typically when you're going in a car, your objective is always to reach the destination in the fastest,
True.
shortest possible
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But you don't do that when you're on a cycle. You actually get to see how it changes, how you go. When we move from Rajasthan, then you go to Bihar, and a lot of these riders had not been to Bihar. I, of course, had been to Bihar and stayed there, so I knew it. But it was the fear is that Bihar ja rahe hain, we have to be careful on the road, we have to watch out, and they were just blown away by the hospitality of the Biharis. They will just feed you. You sit there, they will just keep feeding and feeding and feeding, and it's beautiful just to ride through Bihar.
Yeah.
So that kind of an experience, when you're actually going through India, you realize just the beauty of it and how the dresses change, the landscape, everything. It was just a very, very nice journey.
Awesome. When you say armed forces background,
My father
Okay.
is a retired army officer.
Okay.
So, coming from that background, every two and a
Right,
half
you would
years,
have-
we
yeah.
shifted.
yeah.
So, like that, my entire childhood was spent traveling
Okay.
across India. Every 2.5 years, we moved.
Right.
So, traveling is very ingrained in me. It
Yeah.
comes very naturally.
Yeah.
But this kind of traveling was different.
Yeah. So, but you are a working athlete, right? So, during that time, that longer break.
So at that point of time, I actually was working in 2015 was my last job. I was working with Simply Learn,
Uh-huh.
and then I quit the job to start my own company. So I was running a cycle touring company called Handlebars.
Oh, okay.
So I had the flexibility at that point of time
Okay.
to not. I didn't have to take time off from work.
Mhm.
The only thing that happened is it was a year my daughter. It was in the month of November,
Okay.
and it was in the middle when my daughter would have turned 16.
Okay.
So actually, when Grini called me, I was sitting in the kitchen and talking to her, and I'm like, "Are you mad? How can you just take off for 25 days in the middle of the month? That's too long a time. I don't think I can do it. But sounds interesting." So I was having this entire conversation, and my daughter was watching TV, and she's like, "What was that about?" I'm like, "No, there's a strip happening like this, and And she was like, "But Mama, you must do it. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity." And I'm like, "But yeah, it's your birthday." She's like, "I'm in the middle of 10th board exams. I'm not going to be doing anything at all. But this sounds like really you should do it." And when I'm okay, does sound interesting if the girls are old enough, and they were pretty supportive. So then I spoke to my husband and I said, "This is like this." And they're quite a supportive family. They're like,
Yeah.
they said, "Go, just do it." So
I mean, if your daughter was, was eavesdropping, and then they said you should do it.
Correct.
You
Yeah,
should
that
know
is
that's
so that kind of gave me, because initially anyone you say 25 days and you're like, how can you just take off 25 days for doing your own ride? It sounds quite bizarre. So that was my initial reaction. But once a girl started saying, "No, this This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's completely paid for. It's a sponsored event. I mean, something like this otherwise would cost you money if you're doing it on your own, right?
Course, right.
So they're like, you should do it, and then I started thinking, and I'm like, okay, perhaps I should.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did it. I know.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah.
Yeah, you would have made a lot of memories, right?
Absolutely, and wonderful people I met. I've made friends I know will be with me for life. Like very incredible riders and good human beings.
So, but a ride that long, 3,200 kilometers, would mean riding day in and day out for longer distances.
Averages to about 150, 160 kilometers per day. The certain days we were doing 200 and certain days we were doing like less than 100. Couple of days were less than 100. The challenging part was actually not the riding, because if you look at it, all of us, only thing we're doing is riding. So we're not worrying about food, we're not worrying about putting clothes for wash, managing children, household, nothing. There's no work, nothing. The only thing you're doing is riding. So these riders who had done K2K earlier had told me that riding is not the hard part. What happens is that because you're sponsored, you have to do X number of stops every day, because all the Lions Club along the breadth of India now have to felicitate you, right? You have to stop. You're bound by that. So you're doing that. Ideally you would want to start very early, but there were certain days you started at 10, 11 because there were 3 Lions Clubs, and you're making stops there, and there are speeches, and there is photography happening. There's press happening. So there were certain days it would just start at like 7 in the morning and end at 8, 9 in the night. That just became exhausting, because then you have to wash your clothes. You need to clean your bike. So that thing sometimes would just get a little bit of tiring.
Because even for Tour de France riders, the yellow jersey, the toughest part for them is the press commitments and all that. Right? So the sponsors commitment is hard. Okay, so you had that pro experience.
But it's also incredible because they're just, they were so mesmerized and they were so welcoming that you can't say anything. You are just overwhelmed. They would, certain places, and depends on which state you are in, they'll put pagdi on you, or there were special caps that they have in the state, or they'll put a shawl, and children would come to me. You went to schools, etc. So that way, it's just to get that kind of love, you would never have access to that kind of support and love from people. So no complaints. It was just, I was saying that just became the tiring part of it, because you couldn't manage. You had to do it in between all this. But it was good to see that side.
Awesome. And post that, you were in a good shape, and you said you did another.
I did, so I came back in November and I did the 600 Durga BRM in December.
Okay.
So that felt good. I was in good shape. I felt good.
Durga BRM.
Yes, 600. Chitradurga, it was like a 600 kilometer ride.
Okay.
That was good. Then I did the 300 in January. Then COVID happened in March. COVID played havoc. Yes. Yeah.
But post-COVID, as in, I don't know if we are post-COVID yet. But we managed to go to Tour of Goa last month. And this was your first Tour of Goa, right?
Yes.
So how was that experience?
So the entire objective was, I was actually signed up for Tour of Malnad a week before that, but because of my work commitments, I could not go for it. So I was sitting very disappointed, saying that I was all set to do a tour, and a friend of mine, Tejaswini, she said, let's go for Tour of Goa. And I'm like, but the registrations are closed. But anyway, we were able to find 2 spots and go. So our objective was just to go to Goa and have fun. I think that objective was met. And, we got to meet a lot of new riders. Of course, the entire Bangalore, huge bunch from Bangalore was there. So sense of familiarity was always there. The Spectrum team was there. Team Bros were there. And a lot of other individual riders as well. So from that perspective, it didn't feel like we have gone to meet completely like a new tour. It was like a Bangalore bunch has gone to do a tour of Goa. But we did meet a couple of new riders, and it was fun. So we had fun,
Yeah, I
came back.
mean, we had a large contingent. Last year, a bunch of us went, I think 15 of us or something.
Okay.
And that kind of spurred a lot more interest this year.
Correct, correct. Yeah.
Because once they saw the blog post, there were pictures and videos from
And it's
last year,
Goa.
and it's Goa,
Correct.
and the distances are not huge,
Correct,
and there
yeah.
seems to be people coming back from there, gave a lot of positive feedback, saying, "Oh, it was so much fun," and all
Right.
that, and so that's a lot huge interest.
Correct.
And also, this was nothing was happening in 2020,
Correct.
right?
And I think everyone just needed
Some everyone
to
was
just
dying to get out,
out
I
and do
guess.
something.
So
Correct.
it was
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
that way. So I think now this year, I think 25 or some people were from Bangalore
Correct.
itself.
That was a
The overall, like out of 48, 50 people,
Correct.
like half
Bulk
of
of
them
us
were
were
like
from Bangalore. Correct.
Bangalore. So it was a lot of fun, and we saw quite a few local riders there
Correct.
and from other places as well. So you were forced to kind of participate in race
Yes.
there. How was that
We
experience?
were so we had no plans because I thought typically in a tour the competitive segments are optional,
Yeah,
and so we had just gone with the idea to chill and ride. But what happened is that as a part of the entire tour, they split us into teams, and each rider's time kind of started adding up to the team timing.
yeah,
That kind of forced us to participate in the competitive segments. The first day, I was kind of, no, it's okay, let's chill.
Hmm.
And halfway through, I think the first was like a 6 kilometer
yeah,
segment.
yeah.
And the first two was just riding, and I'm like, you know what? End of the day, they're going to announce the results, and we are going to be. So, third kilometer, I just picked up pace and, somehow just managed.
Yeah,
Second and third day, okay, I tried to put in my effort.
yeah, yeah,
So, it was fun. I mean,
yeah.
it was a smaller group.
So so now that you know that racing is fun, are we going to see more?
I'm not sold on. See, my concern is not. I mean, I don't have a problem with racing at all. I think it's super fun to watch and all that. My problem is I really don't train formally, right? I don't measure anything. I don't have a power meter. Once in a while, if I remember to put my cadence sensor, it's there.
Yeah.
My heart rate is like bizarre. Okay, if you look at my heart rate, you will not ride. Then so I don't measure anything at all. I just take the cycle and I ride.
Yeah.
And I think racing just requires you to have a different mindset. You need to be a
Okay.
little more structured in how you approach it.
Mm.
You have a plan about how you go about it, right? And I don't have anything in place. So I feel that I don't do justice to it. So if I do something, I like to do it well. I like to be prepared for it. And since I don't do any of that, I feel that going into something just for the sake of doing it is not doing justice to it, because there are people who train and come for it. Having said that, yeah, I mean, I did attempt one last year, and that was like, as I said, which was the BBCH ITT last year in September, which got postponed because of COVID. The March one got pushed to, I think, September, October.
Correct.
And we had all registered for the March events. We automatically got.
Yeah.
So that was the first actually race that I had participated in. So.
It was fun.
And it was fun. I did it. That's all. I showed up at the start line.
I'm trying to put the words in your mouth. Yes, accept that it is fun. Racing is fun. But yeah.
I reached the start point. I came for it.
Yeah.
I did it. So that's, I'll keep that as a starting point for now.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, you have to do what you enjoy doing.
Correct.
It's no fun if racing is putting stress on you, or mentally or physically, then, and you are not enjoying it, then there is no point.
Yeah.
But there is a there is a large portion of the crowd, including me and stuff, who enjoy that
Correct.
process.
I
So,
say that.
yeah,
I say
yeah.
that, and
So
I understand
that's
that.
completely fine. There is there is a thought process where they say brevets are useless and racing is for snobs and all that. But I don't subscribe to that. So you got to do what you enjoy doing,
Correct. Yeah. I agree.
right? So if long rides or just riding for the fun of it,
Correct.
or brevets or whatever floats your boat, just do it.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it's not like I do a lot of breves either. So if you
Mm-hmm.
look at my entire riding history, um, I have done just one SR. That's
Mm,
it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mostly do 200s. I stick to
right.
that because I can come back home at a reasonable hour and
Mm,
close it.
yeah,
I like long distance, but I don't necessarily do a lot of breves. I just do
right.
every now and then just to, you know, be a part of the community and just
Yeah,
get myself just to see I can do it.
yeah,
And then when I do, I set it with certain targets in mind. Okay, let me see how well I have progressed, etc., like
yeah,
that. But otherwise, what I really enjoy most are my regular rides, and
yeah.
I enjoy touring. So,
Mm-hmm.
I try to do more of that. So, even if you see my distance, the number of kilometers that have come in from Breves is minuscule. It's
Yeah,
hardly there. So,
yeah. When talk about regular riding, you the what is that pandemic, the lockdown and
mhm.
everything has um, driven most of us crazy, and I think it did a number on you as well, because you you did something like what 2600s in a month or something.
Yes, I
What was that
did.
about?
So, while the pandemic, I mean, it did drive a lot of us nuts. One thing it did was it actually brought a lot of structure during those 3 months that we were in lockdown.
Mm,
We, of course, had to do the cooking, cleaning, everything. Besides that, there was a time I set apart to do my strength training, which was a great outcome of that thing. Is that because of the lockdown, we were forced so much to be at home,
mm,
and I made sure that almost an hour and a half, 2 hours between. And I don't own a trainer, so I
mm,
couldn't ride at all. So I had a lot of time in my hands.
right.
So I started doing strength training and yoga, etc. And I felt quite fit at that point of time. And
Right.
then when things started opening up, because there were a lot of safety kind of questions, and you didn't want to be out for too long or be away from the city, I started riding within the city,
Mm,
and there was zero traffic. So it was like a lot of fun. It
right.
was beautiful. Like I
Yeah.
have fabulous pictures from this 1.5, 2 months I was
Mm,
riding.
mm.
Then June just happens to be a month of my birthday.
Ah,
And and we were not doing any events. There was nothing that was like, I had looked planned for the immediate future. And I was just sitting and talking to my children. I was like, you know what? I think it was in 2015 or 16, when I was training with Anil.
mm,
There was, again, I think it was in the month of June that he did 30 consecutive hundreds.
right.
And at that point of time, it was so mind boggling. I was like, how can one do like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, and I had prior to the June already done about 10 into 10 days of 100 consecutive days of riding. I had already done it 3, 4 times.
Right.
So I knew up to 10 days I
So
can
like 10
consecutive 100,
consecutive
100.
hundreds. Okay. Yeah.
Just randomly I had done because
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
testing my endurance,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was not for a challenge or something. It was just
Yeah.
on my own. I had done it. So
Right.
I knew that till 10 days I'm good. I don't have.
Right.
So I told the children that, okay, maybe I'll do 15 days in a row and I'll see how it feels.
Yeah.
So I started 7 days, and what happens is on the seventh day it was my sister-in-law's baby shower.
Mm.
And so obviously I could not ride that day.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I have a break on the seventh day. So let me change it, and I'll see that I'll ride Monday to Saturday and I'll take rest on Sundays.
Okay.
And I said, I'll do it for 2 weeks and see if I feel good, I'll continue. If not, I'll stop.
Yeah.
Because it's all self-driven. There's nothing
Right.
that I'm doing.
Yes.
So it just happened in that flow that Monday to Saturday I would do 100 and I would rest on Sunday and recover. And the entire month of June I ended up riding 2600s. So that's how that came about.
That's how it happened.
That's how it happened.
Right.
Purely organic. Nothing. It was just in a spur of a moment. Like I
Yeah,
thought
but
about
still
it.
you were able to do well. It's a testament to your endurance and
Thank you.
this mental strength also, right? You can get to a stage where you are at a point, should we?
Yeah, there were certain days because it was a rainy month, that
Mhm,
particular month. So there were there were a couple of days where I just couldn't ride in the morning because it was raining.
Yeah.
And then once it becomes 10, 11 to start a 100-kilometer ride,
Yeah.
it just feels ditched, But a couple of friends would reach out. It's okay, Vidya, come, I'll ride with you. So, I know one day Rahul reached out and I did South Bangalore loop with him. It was later part of the day.
Yeah.
So there are days like that where you're just thinking, just let it be. What's the big deal? Who's going to start riding at 10, 11 in the morning? And,
Yeah.
So there were certain days where I just felt I'll leave it. But then you're so close to it and you're like, it's okay. There's some company, then it's fun. You're riding, we're having coffee, we're chit-chatting, taking pictures and somehow get through that, day. Certain days were more of a drag than the others.
Right.
If I start at like 5:45, 6, then I'm good. There is no,
Yeah.
You'll finish it off and come. It's the days when that doesn't start, there are all these mental games start, like, shouldn't I leave it? And I'm like,
So you also talked about that you enjoy touring.
yes,
So what sort of touring do you do?
So as I said, when I did the Bangalore Kanyakumari ride is when I thought I was like, you know what, this is a nice way to explore. And then, as I mentioned, I used to go with Anil and Archana for these hill rides and stuff like that. And I really thought it's a fun way of exploring because, you slow down and you see things.
Right.
So when in 2015, I gave up my job and my husband kind of pushed me and he says, why don't you start something of your own?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't come from an entrepreneurial background at all. Like, very traditional. We want to work and come back home and get your salary in the first of the month.
Yeah.
And he's like, when you work like you own the company,
Yeah.
So why don't you put that effort into... So in 2016, I came up with a business plan, which kind of took all my interests, which was cycling. I like traveling. I like organizing events. I'm very people oriented and stuff like that. So it was a very broad business plan. But at that year, I also shifted from South Bangalore, which was my comfort zone, to Marathali, where I didn't know anyone. And the retail pricing was just too expensive to put my entire business plan into action. So I took one vertical of that, which was a touring thing. And started doing tours with people. So I started going to Thailand, to Sri Lanka, went to Bali. So I did that for a couple of years. But, it's difficult because, make time off from the family, etc. And I really don't like making money out of cycling. So I was like, my husband says, that is not how business works, And I'm like, I hate asking people for money. You just come with me for the tour. And I'm like, that's not going to work. So in 2019, 20, I just said, okay, I need to stop this. Let me just do cycling for fun. And I had started this group called SpokesWomen, which also kind of took off. And I was enjoying more than doing a business out of it. So
yeah, the spokeswoman is when I kind of noticed you, and I I I can say that when I saw that group of women and you behind them, I honestly can say that I became a fan of you. So because over the years, right, through the last 10 years that I was in Bangalore, I have seen many women who would reach out to me or friends looking for company, right? And I can't say ask them to join me or others because typically the paces won't match and they were not comfortable also, right? Especially in the beginning.
Correct.
But when I saw that there is a kind of group that is going together and someone is driving it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I kind of reached out to you and appreciated online and stuff. But what started that idea?
So spokeswoman was purely incidental, Venki. It was not a planned thing. As you said, once I shifted out to Marathali and I didn't know a single soul. And for 3-4 months, I was just sitting at home, not riding because I'm so used to riding with Anil and friends that suddenly I was in a place where I didn't have company and I was not riding at all. Then after 4 5 months, I got really, bugged, and I'm like, I got to get out and ride.
Yeah.
So I started, charting out Google Maps. I would stop, just started riding.
Yeah.
And what happened is that as I started riding, people on Strava started connecting, and they said,
Yeah.
okay, you're going here, we'll join you. And I
Yeah.
started making a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And I think what happened is that, we take a lot of pictures during rides.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what would happen is that there will be like a huge bunch, and I'll be like the sole woman there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people started reaching out to me through Strava and Facebook Messenger, saying that, we see you ride a lot, we are new to riding, can you ride with us, and things like that. And I went for a couple of rides with them. But then I found that it's very difficult for one person to kind of help so many, because
Right.
they're geographically so divided in
Yeah.
Bangalore. So I just thought, you know what, there are women who are keen to ride. So I reached out to my entire group in South Bangalore, where I was earlier staying. And I
Right.
said, you know what, there are a lot of women riders, and they're keen to ride, but obviously I can't ride with them. So there are some South Bangalore girls. Would you be open to riding with them? Then I reached out to the girls who were in Malaysia, etc., etc., people I knew.
Right.
And I said, I'll just form a WhatsApp group, and when I find someone, we'll add them and we can take them on rides.
Right.
They were all very enthusiastic and said, sure, we'll do that. And spokesperson was like, I had created two creatives, one woman and one man, and it was tagged as spokeswomen. I just took the same thing and applied it here, and I just called it the spokeswomen group.
Yeah.
And I created this WhatsApp group with about 10, 11 friends.
Right.
And I shared the WhatsApp link with saying that if there are women keen to ride, you can ask them to join this group.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, I had 55 women join the group.
Awesome.
Within 48 hours, it was 78 plus. I mean, I was mind blown. I didn't know what to do, because obviously I had not anticipated this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now I don't know what to do, because there is no way we can manage.
Yeah.
But frankly, even though there were large numbers, it was a very small percentage of women who were actually riding. And then slowly, kind of, because I didn't know, it was just, as I said,
Right.
it was just, just happened on the spur of the moment kind of a thing. Then try to create a Google form where people would put their places, etc., etc. And slowly just started putting group rides on weekends.
Right.
And then, of course, people started associating the logo with the name and started coming out on rides.
Yeah.
So that's how it's grown. The good thing is that it's been, the women who have come in have been incredible. Like, each one of them,
Right.
in their own capacity, in their own abilities, have brought so much richness to the group. And it's a very, very encouraging group. And
Right.
what's happened is that it's addressed a lot of problems that women would be very reluctant to ask in a mixed group.
Yeah.
So there are, and you see other women who are exactly like you,
Right.
and we have ranges from like 20-year-olds to 50-year-olds who are there in the group.
Right.
And you find them that they are very similar to you. They are working, they have families to manage,
Yeah.
they have time constraints, because, cycling is a very time consuming sport. Unlike a
Absolutely.
running or a swimming, which can be done within an hour and you say, okay, I'll get back home to my things. Cycling actually is a sport where you need the support of your family.
Right.
So how this community has helped is that it kind of has given you the confidence that if they can do it, we can somehow manage.
Right.
And slowly they have made the time and the effort to build it into it. And they in turn have encouraged other women in their reach to do the same.
Right.
And there is it's because it's a very supportive thing. So, no, even if you ride like a 5 to 10 kilometer ride,
Yeah.
the encouragement that you get is exactly the same you would get if you want a race or you do a brevet, etc.
Yeah.
Because each one of it is an accomplishment in itself.
Right.
And the women do make time to kind of help. So even if you're a brevet rider, you will still support someone who's doing a 20-kilometer ride. There is no sense of, okay, this is too less, this is
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what has helped it grow.
Yeah.
And addressing a lot of problems or questions that you might be reluctant to ask in a mixed group, like,
Yeah.
I'm having my periods, what do I do?
Yeah.
I have this kind of pain, this hurts, that hurts, this kind of things, which you might not discuss in an open forum. Here can be easily asked, right? And you will get 100 other options how to deal with it, etc.
Yeah.
So in a way, that has really kind of brought these women together.
Yeah.
And then we try to do like a meetup ride once in 2 months,
Mhm.
where we all meet up for Kaban, for
Yeah.
taking pictures and for eating food. That is the only objective.
Absolutely.
And then it puts a face to the names.
Yeah.
And then once you have that connect,
Yeah.
then it's more personal, right?
Absolutely.
So that's how I think that this community has really grown, and now I feel very blessed to be a part of it.
No, definitely. I think that's your biggest achievement so far. Um, even considering K2K and all that, because it puts a lot. It gives a lot of women a sense of belonging, right? The other day I was talking to Prachi, Anand's
Okay.
wife, and she was like, we were discussing about spokeswomen and how it kind of gives a sense of belonging and
Okay.
someone you can identify with and reach
Correct.
out and ride
Right.
with and stuff. Yeah, so that is really important.
Right.
I think women exclusive women's cycling club. I would say is what spokeswoman is, and I hope that it'll grow further and
Thank you.
further, and there would be a racing wing.
We have actually created
Yeah.
a small. So last year, I think when BBCH was planning races, and they were saying like, okay, the brevet community is growing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that if you're aware, but in the earlier brevet days, we would have like 2, 3 women.
Correct.
And this time we had about 30 plus women doing the 200. So it's like
Wow.
numbers, and it's largest number ever seen in India. Like for one brevet, 30 plus
Amazing.
numbers coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, BBCH was also had, promise had said that let's get women into racing. So we formed a small group called Race Kare.
Right.
That was all that happened in January, and that's how we all ended up signing up for the BBCH in March.
Right.
But then, COVID
Yeah.
happened, so that's gone.
Yeah.
That kind of just died a natural death.
Right.
But this year we are saying that whether we train or not, whether we are all in for racing or not, let's just go in numbers and let's just be there. Let's make our presence felt. Let's get there. Maybe out of this, even if 2 or 3 actually develop an interest in racing and move on, that's a contribution itself. So
Definitely.
that's how we had started coming for races. And I
Yeah.
said, let's be there. And it takes only a cycle or 2.
Right.
So like last in September, October, when it happened, again, 31 women registered.
Yeah.
Only 18 showed up, but
right.
the
But
fact
still-
is that they have put their names out there,
Yeah.
and not necessarily they're all from spokeswomen. They were
Right.
from all walks of,
Yeah.
different types of groups. And I know Tri-BLR had some, and
Yeah.
a lot of cycling groups are coming up. So
Right.
I'm not necessarily saying they were all from spokeswomen, but
Right.
it's just that having a big number showing up.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, the podium finishers, you need to have a minimum number for all 3 podium finishers to get their medals.
Yeah.
And that would not happen because the number of women showing up for the event
Absolutely.
didn't pass that threshold.
Right.
I'm like, that is not acceptable.
No.
We have to have that minimum number out there. So whoever wins first, second, third
Yeah.
deserves that medal,
Yes.
So let's just get there. Let's even if we add to those numbers,
Right. Right.
So I think that's where the thought process is right now.
Mm.
And I did connect a lot of the women who are actually keen to train.
Yeah.
I think I'd reach out to you. I reached out to Dipankar, and I said
Yeah.
I'll share their numbers.
Mm.
And depending on how much they want to spend in terms of effort, time, money, they
Right.
can decide.
Yeah.
But I did give them options, and I connected them, and
Yeah.
some of them did start. But as I
Right.
said, COVID happened. It just kind of
Mm.
threw everyone's plans out the
True.
window.
Yeah.
But I think that structure will come slowly in place. Right
Yeah.
now, the objective is just to show up there and,
Absolutely.
develop that interest and just be around, just look at the only thing is it's a very niche community, and it's a
Mm.
very intimidating community.
Right.
So like I remember coming in for the first few races and just feeling out of place.
Yeah.
Because it's I don't know if it's close knit, but there is a sense of it's
Yeah, there is. So yes, fun. Good that you brought it up, because when you turn up at a race,
Mhm.
right, what happens is everyone is like keyed up for
Correct.
performance, like
Correct.
wound up. and,
Right,
like,
it is.
so if you notice, some of us would be getting there to the start line, say for an ITT, getting there to the start line without trainers to warm up.
Correct.
Okay, some of us would ride there and use that as warm up, but some of us would arrive there with trainers, set up, and then put some headphones on and focused on warm up and staying in the zone.
Correct,
And And all this is for them to stay focused and
Right.
focus and give everything for the performance. But what it does as a side effect is that you're not very social.
I know. So I'm not even critiquing this thing. I'm
No,
just
no,
saying
no.
as an outsider
No.
comes in.
That is an absolute
Yeah.
valid point, and you are not very social. And recently, when I was talking to Rohan, people, that actually that clarity came to me. Like, yeah, at the start of a race, start of a race,
You're not gonna
it
get
can be quite intimidating for
it.
newcomers.
Yes, it is.
So we have to think something about it, because um, a place like Crete, right, where you are watching people
Right.
go around and around, that is a bit of a spectator sport.
Correct. Yeah.
That can be a bit encouraging. But others like ITT
Correct.
or a 100-kilometer
Yeah.
road race, it's not really
correct,
a
yeah.
spectator sport,
Yeah.
and can be quite intimidating for new
Absolutely,
riders who showed
absolutely.
up. So yeah, that
Yeah,
is
it
there.
happens in the first few races, and I'm like, you don't want to be there. I'm like, there's no one here who's like, nice to you. Why would I come here to cheer them?
Yeah,
So when you go as a group,
yeah,
it takes away that pressure because you're
absolutely.
coming there and
Yeah.
you're just having
You
fun. Yeah, you're there with you have each other.
Yeah.
And so when we for the ITT, we're like, okay, race to khatam kar lenge, then we'll have those, we'll take pictures here. So like, because it's, as I said, we are not there with a lot of training. We don't have coaches giving us, okay, itne mein karna hai, this is how you've done before. This is nothing. We're just there and we'll ride as we would do, maybe try to do a little bit faster than what we do. We're coming from that perspective. But yeah, those who train and come obviously have a plan in place and you want to execute it. So.
Yeah, but if you come there as a group, that there is that familiarity.
Exactly.
Right? You are not like as intimidated
as you would if you
as
came
you would
alone.
if you
If you came alone.
And eventually, even when you are training and all that, then even then you would have your team strategy and all to discuss and stuff like that. So it is there.
And once you come 2-3 times, you kind of get an understanding. Okay, it's not intentional. It's not.
Right.
You don't get affected by it as much. So you will not get put off by it. It's if you go there as a lone spectator, it's very off-putting. You don't want to be, as I said, I remember one of the riders, I had taken my daughters to watch a race, and they were all clapping for them. He's like, my God, usually we're just used to clapping for each other. We've never had someone else come and clap for us. This is so nice. Yeah, it does feel good when someone comes and supports you.
Yeah.
But that was just happened because they came as children, right? And okay, we were watching all the bikes and ITT again is not like a mass start kind of a thing where the adrenaline is not there, right? It's just one by you have to sit and how is this fun, if you don't know the game. Right. So then it's completely off-putting if you don't know what it is about. So going there as a group kind of takes that edge off, and then you slowly understand it, and then maybe think about exploring it in the future. So it's a journey. I'm sure that numbers will go up.
Yeah, I hope. I hope it will go up because the tribe needs to grow, right?
Yes. Yeah. Every community has to grow.
Yeah. Right. So you talked about your kids encouraging you and that. So what is the effect that all your adventures, your 2600s and all these crazy things that you do have an effect on them? Do they also get into riding with you and stuff?
They did a little bit. So earlier years when my kids both came, as I said, I used to stay in Jayanagar, and that community has to live as a very, very active community. So when I attended my first triathlon, we actually asked the kids, Goa Enduro Sports has kids triathlons.
Right.
So I asked the girls if they would be interested, and they were game. So they actually then did 2 years in a row, under 14 and under 16 age category. They did the Goa triathlons. So that kind of helped because they started getting into the groove of cycling and swimming and running, everything. Unfortunately, because of some reasons, they couldn't continue with the annual event. So the girls actually like running, Cycling, they do a little bit, not that much, and off late, hardly anything. But during the lockdown, Bangalore Randonneurs had come up with you know, they came up with various challenges just to get people out and running because Brevets, of course, they were not happening. But Mohan, who runs the Bangalore Randonneurs Club, kind of set up some challenges so people can get out and ride. So my daughter and her friend actually signed up for one of this, which was like doing 15 consecutive 50 kilometers. So we started on, I think, first of, I don't know if it was August or September. We got out and was pouring. So, okay, not a good start. We came back home. We started on 6th, and every day before school, we would start. We would ride to Kaban, come back, finish 35 kilometers. They would finish school, and they would do the balance 15 kilometers. So 15 days they did that 50-kilometer ride. It was fun. The girls, certain days were more of a stretch than others because, again, weather, school, exams, all happening around that time. And I remember on the 15th day, my older one, and this is my younger one who did it, and not the older one. So my older one was asking the younger one, how do you feel? That she's like, I don't want to see Kaban Park for a month. It's like, they were so fed up, But it was just familiar, that it takes this much of time. We can go finish and come back. So they have the endurance. They are good at all the three sports. It's just that with an online school and the amount of hours spent doing projects, they just feel exhausted to just come out and do anything. They do their workouts, but in terms of riding, not much. But they used to participate. Like my older one, when she was 14, came to do a 200-kilometer ride in Sri Lanka with me. My younger one has unfortunately not done any tour with me, but she rides well. So not that much in terms of riding, but they have the endurance in them to do it.
Awesome. I'm sure that eventually they will
pick hoping.
Up whatever if it is running or cycling, whatever.
I hope they do.
Excites them. Great. Now after handlebars, you kind of stopped, and then you went back to
corporate work. Yes.
So now you are again a working athlete. With, even with handlebars, you are working athlete. You are working for your own company. So now, as a working athlete, doing all these and encouraging other women to ride and everything. So, what are some of the tips that you would have for working athletes to manage all this well?
So, I think it's everyone has time constraints. Each person has their own sets of challenges that they have to work around with. And certain days are harder than others. But I do believe that having a very clear objective in what it is that you want to do kind of helps you plan the days out. So there are certain days when it's just too hectic and you can't go out on a ride, then you mark it out for strength training. Because any kind of sport is not just about going out and playing or doing that sport, right? It's a combination of things. How you manage your diet, how you manage your strength training, and how you actually do the sport itself. So there are, in fact, in the last 1 month, I've hardly ridden at all. Work has been really hectic. But what I've done is during the middle of the day, I chalk out an hour where I go and do my workouts. So, and that kind of eventually helps you in your sport itself. So it's a matter of having clarity about what it is that you want to do and how do you, chalk out your time during the day. And you have to enjoy it. I think once you actually enjoy it, you will make time for everything. And as being part of a group, the community also kind of pushes you and eggs you to come, and so just engaging with them, clearly setting paths and what you want to do out of, as I said, always having a clarity on the objective, I feel has what has helped me do whatever I do. And just on certain days just feel harder than the others, but eventually you get back on in the zone and do it.
Correct.
And that's what's worked for me, and that's what I tell others too, is that don't get pulled in by the number games and the peer pressure, right? Oh, she's done this much, he has done this much. If I don't do, it's not enough. I'm like, it's a sport, it's a passion, it's not your life. I mean, I'm not an athlete. This is not where I make money. This is not where, it's a passion. It's what you enjoy doing. If you don't have the enjoyment in it anymore, then you need to relook at it. So if cycling doesn't, you know,
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
you going.
it doesn't pay you, right?
Yeah, it's not
You are
paying.
doing it for
Yeah,
fun,
you're doing it for fun.
and
So
you have to keep it fun.
absolutely. So that as long as you have clarity that this is what you're getting out of it.
Yeah,
And most of us are in our 30s and 40s, right?
right.
It is kind of a garnishment in your already rich life,
Mm,
and you should not add so much of pressure that fun and joy goes out of it.
right. Yeah, the peer pressure and all
Yeah,
that
it
should
does.
not be there.
I see it in my group. I see it in various other groups where
Yeah,
you're so pulled in by the numbers. As long as numbers motivate you and get you up and going and drive you, it's a good thing.
yeah. Mm,
But the downside to it is that sometimes it just pulls
yeah,
you down and takes you away from your game,
yeah,
and can completely put you off. So
right.
having that clarity and understanding the fine line between motivation and
Yeah,
going the other way around
yeah,
would help.
yeah.
And we have to remember at our age, we are not going to represent India in any games. So let's have clarity in it.
Maybe if eating was a game.
So let's enjoy it. I
Yeah,
mean, it has to make our life richer, make it fun, and
yeah,
get more people to it. Just having clarity goes a long way
yeah.
in doing that.
Awesome, Vidya. So this was super fun. I had a blast talking to you about
Same.
your journey and the how spokeswoman came about, and it's a great job with it.
Thank you so much
And
for having
I
me.
wish the spokeswoman and all the women out there all the very best. And
Thank you so much.
if you need any assistance in anything, please don't hesitate to reach
I
out.
will.
The although the racing crowd and the fast bunch can seem as snubs, but they're quite fine. Okay, if you need any help, please reach out.
I will
And
do that.
all the very best.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to chat with you. And thank you for having me over once again.
You're welcome. And those of you watching, if you know any women who are interested in riding, please reach out to Vidya on Vidya Chandran on social media. I
Yeah, you
think,
can search for me Vidya Chandran.
and
Otherwise,
you can
SpokesWomen is there.
you can
We have
search.
an Insta page.
Yeah,
So, even if you reach out me on chat, I respond and add you to the group. So,
awesome. So please reach out to spokeswoman and put the women in your life who are interested in riding in touch with spokeswomen so that they can get started. And subscribe to the channel Bikey Winky on YouTube and the Working Athlete podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Thank you.
thank you.